Okay, so is there hope for Jeff Okudah? He was the third overall pick, of course, and then had a really bad rookie year under Matt Patricia. Then in his second year, got hurt after just one game. Is there hope for him? Well, let's talk about specifically that one game mostly. Maybe I'm going to talk a little bit about some, tape from the year before as well. But let's, I can give every example I need, I think, in this one game. So that's what we'll be doing. You see this play. What's going to happen is that this concept is a good concept, and it's designed to pick on Okudah a little bit. You have one receiver who runs deep, which will eventually, if you're Okudah, you pass that deep route over to a safety, where then there still are two other players who are going to enter Okudah's route. The only way for this to be properly covered is if a linebacker reads this and runs over and, takes away one of those other routes, then all three will be covered. But that's going to be even more difficult because there's a play action which can get linebackers out of position. It's a good concept. There's a reason San Francisco runs it a lot. They like it. But from Okudah's perspective, what you really want to do is just understand who you should be covering on this play. However, right when this play begins, he just pays way too much attention to that deep route. There's no reason he should be still going this far deep. I mean, there's a safety deep. You have to know what coverage you're in. You have two safeties deep on this play. Let one of the safeties cover that guy. You have to turn back because someone else could be getting into your zone, especially when you're playing San Francisco, where you should know it's week one. You had plenty of time to prepare. You should know that this is what San Francisco does. This is a staple of the Shanahan offense, but Okudah is nowhere near it. Now, it's probably going to catch anyway. Again, like I said, no linebacker picked up the play either because of the play action. Again, good play by the 49ers, and it's not like this Lions team is loaded with talent around Okudah. However, as you see, when Okudah does circle back, he's actually going to get blocked out of the way, which, allows Kittle to pick up a big gain right there. So that wasn't ideal. So not the best, not what you're hoping for right there. There's no denying that. But again, it's not like he's making mental mistakes constantly. That's not really my biggest criticism of Okudah, is mental mistakes. My bigger criticism is going to be what we're going to talk about on the next play. So look, as you see, what's going to happen on this play, it's going to be a one-on-one matchup for Okudah deep down the field against Deebo Samuel. This is a tough spot. I'm not going to blame anyone for getting beat by Deebo Samuel one-on-one. He beats everybody, right? So that's something worth noting. But these are the kind of plays that have really given Okudah trouble at the NFL level. And I have to think an element of this is because he is a slower corner. And you look at corners that tend to be bust, they oftentimes will be slower corners. I mean, Vernon Hargreaves was definitely a slower corner. Eli Apple was a slower corner. Jeff Okudah ran a 4.48, which is not the worst. Typically, the cutoff is 4.5, so he did just break that, but he's definitely on the slower side for starting outside corners. And so right when his play begins, kind of because of that, when you see Samuel start to get to the outside, Okudah very quick to turn his head, and he's just not someone that really can ever play the ball because, in a situation like this, a faster corner can kind of trust that they can keep up with Samuel. Okudah can't trust that he can do that. And maybe the solution is just don't put him on Deebo Samuel. I get that. But when you start to lose on the first couple of steps, you then have to kind of keep your back turned and have to focus on playing the receiver instead of playing the ball. And the best receivers are the ones that find ways to play the ball. Well, it's easier to play the ball when you have speed and you can kind of, turn your head and still not lose a step. As you see, when Samuel goes further deep, there's not much separation, but Okudah couldn't play the ball. And so then Samuel comes back, makes the catch, and that shouldn't have been a touchdown. The safety should have still been able to make a play there, but that shouldn't have been a catch. Okudah should have been able to make the play there. So that's kind of the biggest concern about Okudah is he just not shown any ability to win on the outside like that. He just hasn't. And the sample size we've seen of him, which is still relatively small. I mean, we're about basically one season. That's what we've seen of him. But he has not shown that he can do that. He really struggled at it in the Patricia scheme, which relies a lot on corners. Maybe he could be better if you just don't put him in this situation. I think that's reasonable to suggest. One thing that he actually did legitimately well was defend a run. He was a legitimate good run defender, and this is an example where that's where he is on the screen. It's also a little confusing with Okudah because he's now going to be wearing his third different number in 3 years, so maybe some good strategy to keep changing your number and hope people forget who you are. Maybe that's the logic behind it, but he's now number 30. And watch what he's going to do on this play. I look at him run in, and he's going to do a legitimate good job at being able to stop this run, or at least help stop the run. Jeff Okudah is a legitimate good run defending corner, and that does matter. There is value in that. Again, how much value? I'd certainly rather you be able to, cover than stop the run. But still, the fact that he can do that, to me, is promising. Now, the flip side is, I do have to be, mention as well, he's not much of a tackler. So he puts himself in good position enough times that he'll still be a good run defender, but he definitely will miss tackles. And this is an example of it, where you see him on the screen. And as you see, watch how when the run is in his direction, he is going to end up just whiffing on the tackle. He'll whiff on tackles. That is something true. But still, the fact that he is a good run defender, and the fact that he, I think, can show that he has good ball skills as long as he's not, as long as he can see the ball. To me, there's been some talk about maybe he should be a safety, or at least like a cover 2 corner where you don't have to get worried about getting burned down the field as much, which is what the Lions actually started doing after that 49ers game. Maybe that could actually do wonders for him. It's possible. Jeff Okudah right here, what you see on the screen, he was 3rd on the consensus big board rankings. So most people felt like he should have gone number 3 overall here. It's not like this was just some overdraft, the Lions being silly. He was a hyped up prospect, although again, you could maybe have a bit of a head-scratching moment looking at his PFF grades from college. Look, these were his PFF grades from college, which weren't spectacular. In fact, like in 2017, he was actively bad. 2018, he was okay. And then in 2019, he was solid, but an 82.8 grade. That's not number 3 overall worthy. And again, PFF grades for coverage can be very fluky. They definitely, fluctuate year in and year out. But, it's certainly on the lower side for number 3 overall corner. This chart is how much that matters, where what you're seeing here is that on the left, that's the grade, that's the PFF grade. And then on the right, that's going to be a score. It's my score, 1 through 4, on how good or bad you are. 1 is the worst, 4 is the best. So you see that the average player who has a 90-plus grade gets a score of 3.25, and then it actually kind of falls apart in the 89 or lower section. It doesn't seem like it matters too much, 89 or lower, whether it's 75 or 85. There's no real difference there. In fact, it actually gets better sub 80, which to me says that's just randomness. Also worth mentioning, part of this is I'm only taking your last season into account with this stuff. That's what this is. So you see for Okudah's grade, he did not break that 90-plus threshold that tends to be good corners. He's in that range of it's really hard to predict. And quite frankly, it's hard to predict corners in general. So yeah, I do think that it's an interesting thing of I think Okudah could just be benefited from not playing in a Matt Patricia scheme, which is what we've only seen him in. Again, the Lions did not play that scheme last year, but he barely played. He played 1 game last year. In that game, he had plenty of one-on-one matchups. So there's no denying he's probably not going to live up to the number 3 overall hype. That seems pretty clear. But the nice thing about corners in general is they're fluky. 1 year they're bad, 1 year they're great. So if there's a guy who has yet to live up to the hype, I'd rather be at the cornerback position than any other position because there's hope that it can improve. So that's kind of my main thoughts on Okudah. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments below. Always love hearing from you. And of course, as always, thanks for watching.